Real estate agent, TV personality, television producer, businessman, and now our president. Hello, I'm Kiersten McDonald.
And I'm Cali Montana. The state of Pennsylvania turned red, and Donald Trump has trumped Hillary Clinton to become the 45th president of the United States. We have all this and more coming up on LTV News, where the action never stops.
Hello and welcome to LTV News, where we bring you everything from 20th and Albany Avenue to Philadelphia and the world. We have a jam-packed episode as we elected our 45th president, so let's get to it.
In the early morning hours of Wednesday, November 9th, the Associated Press announced the winner of the 2016 presidential election. Donald J. Trump, in an upset of the century fashion, he won the Oval Office and will serve as the 45th Commander-in-Chief of the United States. Trump secured a win in Wisconsin at 2:30 a.m., which sealed the deal of the victory with over 270 electoral votes. Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton called Trump by phone to concede moments later. Trump took the stage in a New York ballroom to give his victory speech. Quote, "Now it is time for all Americans to bind the wounds of division. It is time for us to come together as one united people." End quote. Polls and political analysts did not favor Trump the entire election day. By the end of the night, the president-elected captured wins in swing states that Republicans have not won since 2004, including Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Iowa, while Clinton carried traditional strongholds in the Northeast, West, and home state Illinois. 218 electoral votes proved not enough, along with the re-election on the Republican Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. The GOP will retain control of the Senate and House of Representatives. President Barack Obama reached out to Trump to extend his congratulations and planned their first meeting in the White House. Make America Great Again has begun.
Congratulations to our new president.
Yes, congratulations, Donald Trump.
Very exciting. A nail-biter.
Yes, a very long election, very suspenseful. You know, polls showed, even just a couple of days before, that Hillary was going to come up and win, but you never know what will happen.
You never know.
That is for sure.
It's very interesting. I was up all night listening to CNN cover it all, and it was exciting, very exciting. It's cool how America works and all the votes. We'll see.
And I want to bring up a point because a lot of people, no matter what their views are, kind of need to take a step back and realize that no matter who won, no president is perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect person in this world. And you know what? We have to realize that and take time as it comes and see what does happen. So,
let's band together and let's do this.
Exactly right.
We can all create peace on earth. All right, in hopes of understanding this election and what the results will mean for our nation and the world, reporter Corie Meredith sat down with political science expert and Salle University professor, Dr. Michael Boyle.
Hello, I'm Corie Meredith, and I'm sitting down with Dr. Michael Boyle today of the Political Science Department. Dr. Boyle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So today is November 9th. Everyone knows what that means, day after election, and definitely safe to say this was a crazy, crazy election. It was very long. It turned out to be kind of shocking. So let's just dive right into it. What do you have to say, just scratch the surface of what this election really means?
Well, so the first thing I would argue is that people got it wrong, right? Pundits got it wrong, academics got it wrong, polling agencies got it wrong. And where they got it wrong really was in white turnout, and particularly white rural turnout. And so if you look at Donald Trump's numbers, Donald Trump's argument all the way through the campaign was to say, you think I'm going to lose this, I'm actually going to drive white rural turnout, particularly white rural turnout without a college degree, much higher than you're expecting. A lot of the polls suggested that that wasn't true, that this was a kind of mystery voting bloc that he was counting on that wasn't in fact actually true. It turned out his bet was right. And that the turnout for key Democratic constituencies, particularly African Americans and Latinos, was either lower or more split than was anticipated. So as a result, Clinton watched her firewall, which she really thought she had in places like Michigan and Wisconsin, collapse last night. And once that collapses, if you lose that, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, suddenly the Democratic sort of formula under which you win the presidency becomes a real problem. And so if there's one message that the Democrats take out of this, and I think Joe Biden talked a little bit about this, is what do you do with disaffected and quite angry white working class individuals, people who have seen their economic fortunes sort of stagnate, their wages are stagnated, their healthcare costs are going up, and they're in rural small towns. Those people aren't seeing the kind of economic growth that you see in some of the major cities like Philadelphia, San Francisco, New York, Washington. And so we really are seeing the effect of economic inequality mobilize a part of the population to simply say, no, we want someone who's going to be our mouthpiece.
Do you think that this was kind of a call to the government, the establishment, that they're sick of the government running it? Do you think that they're sick of Obama? They're sick of it? Do you think that's why the turnout was not in Clinton's favor?
So I think you can look at this as an anti-establishment vote, an anti-systemic vote. People are saying they're disgusted with Washington, they're disgusted with what they see as the sort of gridlock among the two parties. They wanted someone who was seen as a natural outsider to be able to break the gridlock between the two parties and to get something done. So I think you could see this as a kind of anti-systemic vote more than you would see anything else. You know, a lot of Trump voters described it, they used to say, well, I don't care if Donald Trump tells me something that he's not actually going to do. I want him, someone with his temperament, someone who's going to be a kind of wrecking ball to the system to come in. And I think both Democrats and Republicans have to say, well, what is it about the dysfunction in the American political system that produced such an incredible level of dissatisfaction that so many voters went to the polls simply desiring someone essentially to wreck it?
Right. And we'll go back to the polling just real quick. There was a lot of swing states in this, and swing states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Pennsylvania, all of these states went red. And in past elections, 2012 with Obama, that wasn't the case. What happened? What were these swing states seeing that maybe parts for now that they weren't previously?
So I would draw a distinction. So if you think about something like Wisconsin, Michigan, they weren't seen by Democrats or really Republicans as swing states. They were seen as safely in the Democratic column. They flipped, Iowa flipped, and they really shouldn't have, right? That's an example of this kind of mass movement of people who were disaffected to the polls, and it's largely white, right? Not exclusively, but it's largely white, many without college degrees, but even some with college degrees. Trump won both white men and white women, right? So there isn't even a gender breakdown. For the swing states, what you really have is this breakdown between the cities and the rural areas. And traditionally what happens in most of the swing states is that the rural areas produce Republicans, the cities produce Democrats, and it's a turnout competition. How many people can we get to the polls? Obama was very skilled at getting turnout in the cities. If you look at cities like Philadelphia, he had very high levels of turnout in Philadelphia. Clinton clearly didn't get that turnout in the cities. Similarly, you see the same thing if you look at some place like Florida or you look at some place like Ohio. Cities like Cleveland, cities like Miami did not turn out in the numbers that they would need to do. And I think for the Democrats, this raises the question. I mean, I think the Democrats looked at the Obama election and said, well, this is a long-term change in the character of the United States, that we're seeing a coalition of African Americans, of Hispanics, of college-educated people, of young people, and this is going to build a durable Democratic coalition. And it raises a question as whether this actually is a durable Democratic coalition. How much of this is about Barack Obama, and how much of this is about just general demographic changes? And I think a lot of Democrats this morning are saying, well, this may have been about Barack Obama. He may have been the exceptional candidate that got those people to the polls, but we default back to the 2004 patterns, the 2000 patterns of really tight races and rural counties swaying the state votes unless you have him on the ticket.
Oh my gosh, extremely tight races. I feel like every state was only won by a percent almost. I mean, there's definitely some error in that, but a lot of states were. Even Sean Hannity of Fox News, this is a quote saying, "Modern day political miracle happening before our eyes." I mean, obviously Fox News is a more Republican station, but miracle, they were kind of throwing in the towel. They didn't really think that this was going to be the turnout. How surprising was this election?
Well, so I would say Sean Hannity you can't really trust because he's an open propagandist in the Trump camp and also kind of intellectually vacuous. But if you go beyond the Sean Hannity problem,
right,
and you actually get to that serious point, I think there's a bigger problem, which is that our polling numbers are wrong. I mean, even mainstream polling organizations, the New York Times, 538, and so on, they got the polls wrong. And you know, there was a comment out this morning that was saying maybe we should scrap polling, right? Maybe we should just treat polling as it's almost a kind of a magical reasoning that isn't in fact actually true. I don't think that that's true, but I think we have to look at, well, did we undercount systematically populations in the polls? Like, is it very clear that, for example, young whites in rural areas didn't come to the polls? Did we systematically undercount that? Polling is also done with weighting, and there's some evidence to suggest the weighting was wrong. So I think what we need to have is not scrapping of the entire scientific method of measuring public opinion. That's never going to work. But a kind of dark night of the soul for pollsters to say, well, what did we do wrong? And how do we try to make sure that the next time we're not wildly mispredicting states?
So now let's step ahead. He clearly won the election. Donald Trump is the new president of the United States. What does this mean globally? This has been such a worldwide watched election. Even the last debate, there was journalists from all over the world coming to because this is going to affect so much globally. What does this mean?
It's going to be a disaster. I mean, I could try and find some other nice way of putting this, but it's going to be a disaster. So if we look at it, the European governments this morning came out and basically said, Angela Merkel said, I support Trump on the conditions of shared respect for values. In other words, I'm supporting you insofar as you share the common values the United States and Germany has, and if not that, that's it. The French president came out this morning and said, I support you on the basis of decorum. That is not exactly a warm endorsement. So what's happened is that Europe is nervous. China is eager, in fact, actually to see what Trump deals with, because Trump is a thug, and in a sense they want to deal with a thug rather than dealing with something like Clinton, who is seen as anti-China. The person who's probably happiest about this is Vladimir Putin, and in part because, look, the Russians have been engaged in a systematic effort to subvert the American election, and they have been funding social media accounts and intelligence organizations to be able to subvert a democratic process. They've done this in Eastern Europe, and they're doing it here. They're going to be very pleased because they think Trump is someone they can manipulate. They think there's someone they can turn into an asset. So we are in a situation where our longstanding allies are going to get nervous, and many of the people that we would see as enemies, or at the very least not friends, are going to be pleased. If that's the result, that's not a good result. And we can even see it in much of the developing world. There are states, there was a report this morning that said a lot of African governments are saying, what's this going to mean for what Obama has done for Africa? What's this going to mean for what Obama has done for Latin America? So from a global vantage point, we have some real serious problems on the horizon.
And then we talk about his very different, you know, what he wants for the country. He wants to repeal and replace Obamacare. He has all of these various ideals that are much different than what we were seeing now. When should we expect to start seeing these changes? I mean, Pat Toomey has won the Senate. The Republicans have the majority now. So are these going to be easier to implement? Do you think there's going to be some times of checks and balances? What should we expect?
So if Trump plays this smart, he's going to run as far as he can with a unified government. That he's got the House, he's got the Senate, and he's going to try and ram through as much of his domestic agenda. He'll try and repeal Obamacare. He'll try and scrap the Iran deal. He might try and do things with legal immigration. Question is going to be, first, can the Democrats effectively filibuster this in the Senate? That's one question. The second question is, can the Democrats place enough pressure on nervous Republicans? Because if you're a Republican in a seat that might flip to the Democrats, you have to ask yourself, do you really want the Department of Justice rounding up illegal immigrants? Do you really want to be in a position where you take health care away from 15 to 20 million people? And so Trump may find himself in a situation where he's got nervous Republicans unwilling to go on the board and not enough of a margin to get his agenda through. The danger with that is that if you're Trump and playing to his natural playbook, which is almost always in opposition, almost always on the attack, what's Trump going to do? He's going to run against the institutions. He's going to slam the Congress. He's going to slam the courts. And so I think Trump is going to do two things. He's going to try and push as much of his agenda as he can quickly, and then when it doesn't work, he's going to blame the institutions. And the danger there is that he'll continue this kind of corrosive attack on the institutions, and American democracy will get fundamentally weaker.
And he's no longer the Republican candidate. Now he's the president. So he has to unify the country. How is he going to do this?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, Trump has run one of the more divisive campaigns in American history. It's been based on a lot of racism, sexism. There's been some xenophobia involved in that as well. He's going to have a real path that he has to walk back to make this sound like something that is a kind of centrist republicanism. Trump really can go two ways. He can continue to behave the way he's behaved in the campaign, in which case he's going to create more polarization, more dysfunction. Or he can tack back and run center right. And there are people on the Republican Party that have said, look, he's going to govern like Reagan, but run like an extremist. The danger is that that assumes you can control Trump. And what we've seen throughout the campaign is it's very hard to control his impulses. It's very hard to control him to have the discipline to govern effectively like Reagan did. So Trump has a massive challenge. He has to prove himself. If he doesn't prove himself to be someone able to govern as a centrist, we're going to see a lot more dysfunction in the American political system to come.
Yeah, and I definitely think that he has his work cut out for him. This is going to be an election that we tell our grandchildren about. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but this has been a very hot topic, and it will continue to remain so. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we're going to send it back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Corie. But the political buzz is not over just yet. LaSalle's Public Relations Student Society of America, also known as PRSSA, hosted a panel discussion about political communication in the digital era. Producer Dave Roberts and I got the chance to check it out. LaSalle's Public Relations Student Society of America hosted a panel discussion that had the Holroyd atrium packed. The discussion was about political communication in the digital era. The panelists who were on the hot seat that night was Meg Kane, Stephanie Waters, Albert Eisenberg, and Joanna McClinton. It was Matt DeLucia who moderated the panel and brought up the topics about the big transition social media has taken, the practical uses of social media when incorporated in campaigns, and how social media has so much control over the society. After the panelists got to express their opinions, it was then time for the audience to get involved and ask some questions of their own. After the event was over, I got to speak to students as well as Albert Eisenberg to get their thoughts and opinions on the panel.
These are the way that we're getting information about everything that we're going to decide, what our values are, who we are.
I covered not just the presidential election, but the local elections and how media affects all of them. It's very informative.
What we've been seeing on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, we see how important social media is playing in our country today.
Interesting topics, completely irrelevant to our days and to a really important presidential election.
PRSSA had a very successful night and helped get the buzz out around campus about political communication in the digital era. For LTV News, I'm reporter Cali Montana.
It is time for our first commercial break, but when we come back, we'll show you ways to donate this holiday season. We'll also give you the latest update on the ending of the SEPTA strike. Stay tuned.
I'm Cali Montana, and today I'm playing trivia with Salle University students to see what they know about U.S. presidents. Come check this out. How old do you have to be to run for the President of the United States?
35. 35 years old.
That's correct. Now, who is the second President of the United States?
John Adams.
John Adams. Yes, she is on a roll. Barack Obama is the blank U.S. President. So what number president is he?
41st?
44th. Yep. Now, can you name some first ladies?
Okay, the only two that I can name on top of my head is Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton.
My mom, Nancy Reagan.
Okay.
Dolly Madison. Martha Washington.
Michelle Obama, obviously.
I believe in you.
Hillary Clinton, obviously. Yep. That's about it. I don't know.
Eleanor Roosevelt, Laura Bush. But you know.
Oh, yeah, Bush.
Yeah. He got some. Which president's face is on the $50?
$50. I'm not sure.
Think, when was the last time you had a $50?
$50? I don't remember. Jeez.
Do you remember looking at it closely?
No.
All right, so that's probably why you don't know it. Take a guess.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go with James Buchanan.
No. It is John F. Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
But you know, you guessed, you tried your best.
So you're telling me that some LaSalle University students don't know how old you have to be president?
Yes, unfortunately. It was fun to go out and, you know, see what people know, but kind of crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
But, you know, it was fun.
Right.
That's all that counts.
That's all that matters.
But LaSalle's Department of Foreign Language and Literature is collecting food supplies and money in Olney 214 until November 16th. Items needed include turkey, stuffing, canned goods, vegetables, napkins, soda, and utensils. Gift baskets will be put together and handed out to 20 needy families in the community. Even something small can mean something big.
What a great way to give back.
Yeah, especially during the holiday season, you know, you always just feel so good, and you know, I know I'm so grateful, and I bet you are too, to be able to go home and get a good holiday meal.
Yeah, very manageable way to share. All right, so the Brothers of AXP will be hosting a 3-on-3 basketball tournament to raise money for the American Brain Tumor Association. The event will be held on Thursday, November 17th at 8 o'clock in the Tom Gola Arena. They will have giveaways, raffles, and prizes for the winning team. Anyone can participate. There must be 5 players on a team, and each team must pay $25 to play. The sign-up sheets to make a team can be found in the Union Building.
Little Women are taking over LaSalle's campus. The musical version of Louisa May Alcott's beloved novel is coming to the Dan Rodden Theater. The Mass Fall production runs from November 11th to the 19th at 8 p.m. with their matinee performance on Sunday at 2 p.m. All LaSalle students are allowed one free ticket.
On November 1st, the SEPTA Workers Union went on strike for the third time in 7 years. This caused regional rails up to 30 minutes delay and some massive traffic jams, adding extra travel time to everyone's daily commute. With growing concerns over how the strike would affect Election Day, a political action committee made donations to Uber and Lyft to offer free rides to polling places for voters. Luckily, SEPTA and their workers' union agreed on a tentative 5-year contract that still needs to be ratified by union members and the SEPTA board. However, this did cause the end of the 6-day strike. The workers' union lobbied for better wages, pensions, and health care coverage.
And as Veterans Day approaches, Philadelphia came together to celebrate our troops. The second annual Veterans Day Parade filled the streets of Center City. Producer Dave Roberts and I had the opportunity to be a part of it. Their second annual Veterans Day Parade. The parade was in recognition for all the brave men and women who have served the country, as well as all the people who are still continuing to serve today. There were many organizations that came out to show support, as well as participate in the parade. Before all the fun started, I was able to catch up with 2 organizations, Wells Fargo and the Veterans Multi-Service Center, to find out what their main mission is when it comes to helping veterans, as well as their favorite part of the parade.
Wells Fargo has a Veteran Team Member Network, which we're also a part of, and all of our team members within the Veteran Team Member Network take part in the extracurricular activities to support veterans within our community and also support veterans within our company.
It's important that we as a country, especially with the fewer and fewer people serving nowadays, that we understand as a nation, what our veterans contribute.
We're one of the largest cities in the country, and that we're getting involved in recognizing veterans in our community. I think they deserve such an amount of respect from us, and to seeing our city support our veterans as a veteran makes me so much happier.
Watching all the veterans come together and walk in memory of their service.
Many people came together and lined up to honor and thank all of the veterans for putting their lives on the line each and every day to make sure that our country is kept safe. The parade started at 16th and JFK Boulevard and ended at 6th and Market Street. As the parade continued on, there was nothing but smiles and waves coming from the veterans and everyone participating in the event. There was claps and cheers coming from everyone as the parade continued down the streets. After the parade was finished, there was then a festival in which people were able to go and celebrate the veterans and their families. The Veterans Day Parade might have been a few days early, but it is never too early or too late to take some time and thank all the veterans and all of the brave men and women who are still serving our beautiful country today. For LTV News, I'm reporter Cali Montana.
Philadelphia's first African-American fire commissioner passed away at age 72 on November 1st. Harold B. Hairston joined the fire department back in 1964, after he got back from the Army, in which he completed a tour for 3 years. He had a long 40-year career with the fire department, filled with success and hard work. In 1992, Mayor Ed Rendell named him the head of the Philadelphia Fire Department. Hairston took on that role with pride and served for 12 years. Then, in 2004, when he retired, Mayor Kenney said, quote, "He was a dedicated firefighter and an outstanding commissioner. He left a lasting impact on the department and our city. My thoughts and prayers are with his family," end quote.
And coming up after this last commercial break, we find out what trillion-dollar company returns to Philadelphia and one sports team finally broke their curse.
Take a good look at yourself. Oh, yeah. Check that smooth backside. No, really, check it. If you're a man over 50, you're in the group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma. When detected early, skin cancer is highly treatable. Check yourself out and find someone else to help. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
The $3.8 trillion mutual fund company, Vanguard, has returned to Philadelphia. The company will be opening an innovation center in University City. The Philadelphia office will begin with a staff of 20, but has potential to house a staff of over 100. Vanguard CEO Bill McNabb states, quote, With a centralized and centrally located innovation center, Vanguard seeks to harness emerging technologies and new processes to create value for our clients by improving their investing experience and their investment outcomes, end quote. The unveiling of the planned Innovation Center in Philadelphia caters to the growing online client demand. 90% of Vanguard's client interaction now occurs online. This is a monumental move back into the city and away from the company's global headquarters in Malvern, Pennsylvania. Vanguard had an office in Center City from 1984 to 1999. 2017 will mark its official return to the city of brotherly love.
Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney kicked off the month of November not with orange, but with green. On November 2nd, the mayor announced his sustainability plan for the city, designed to make the city of brotherly love healthier and greener. His plan, which he announced atop the green roof at the Free Public Liberty in Logan Square, contained several goals to help Philadelphia residents, including access to healthy and affordable food and water, clean air, and safe and low-carbon transportation. Kenney's plan also includes measures to improve the benefits Philadelphians can reap from the city's parks, trees, and waterways. Christine Knapp, the city's director of sustainability, said the administration will work to protect Philadelphia from the effects of climate change, including installing more green roofs around the city. The overall goal of the plan is to not only improve life, but to engage the community. More information can be found on the city's GreenWorks website.
New scientific reports have come out claiming that in the year 2020, the world may lose 2/3 of its wildlife population. In the past 50 years, the wildlife population has been diminishing, and in 4 short years, we could see this decline amount to 2/3 of wildlife. While many discoveries have found this to be true due to overwhelming threats such as pollution, overpopulation, and other harmful circumstances, this decline has been significant in animals that reside in lakes, rivers, such as marine mammals and fish, as well as lions, tigers, and other big cats.
Apple released their new edition of the MacBook Pro that has some new features on it, like the Touch Bar strip, the Touch ID function, and even the addition of Siri. They added these features after they realized there was a significant drop in laptop sales. Apple hopes that by adding these new features, it will bring in more revenue. The price for the new laptop ranges from $1,800 to $2,800.
New science announced that the biggest supermoon of the century will emerge on November 14, 2016. A moon is classified as super when it is the closest point to Earth in its 27-day orbit cycle and when it is in a full moon phase. Together, these two factors create a supermoon that appears 14% bigger and up to 30% brighter than a moon at its farthest point from Earth. While supermoons occur several times a year, this supermoon is rare because it will be the closest view to a full moon so far this century. The last time a moon was this close to the Earth was in 1948.
Last week, the Chicago Cubs defeated the Cleveland Indians to bring the North Side its first baseball crown since 1908. It was a long 108 years for the Cubby faithfuls, but the wait was well worth it. The Cubs and Indians delivered one of the most attention-grabbing and suspenseful Game 7 of all time. Storylines like the Cubs' curse and Kyle Schwarber's heroic return from ACL surgery to tear up the competition with a .412 batting average in the series. The Cubs' young and extremely talented heart of the lineup ripped everything thrown over the plate with a combination of third baseman Chris Bryant, first baseman Anthony Rizzo, outfielder Ben Zobrist, and designated hitter Kyle Schwarber. Racked up an insane .367 average in the most key spots in the order. Congratulations, Chicago. Fly the W until next year.
Well, that just about does it for this episode, but be sure to find us on the web as well as the rest of LaSalle TV on the Facebook page. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so tweet at us using our Twitter handle and start the conversation.
If you missed the scoop and want to see it, you can find episodes on our YouTube on our LaSalle TV Philly page.
Until next time, for Callie, Dave, Corie, Madison, and Steve, and the entire crew, I'm Kiersten McDonald. Thanks for watching LTV News, where the action never stops.